or if it's some other debt, but you should use that money to take and throw at some debt so you can get out of debt a little sooner and a little earlier. So like I said, when you come to this and you're moving money around, it's not changing your overall debt utilization. You're just moving money from one card to another card. You're not changing anything like that. And this is a card that you already have. If it's a card that you already have, you're transferring it, the ABC credit card, that's one you already have in hand. So you're not changing your debt utilization at all. And so you still have that whatever your debt utilization was before that. I'm sure you know what that is by now. If you're new to the show, debt utilization is how much money you owe versus whatever your balance is versus whatever your limits are on your credit report, and you want it to be 30% or less. Now, it's best to be 30. Well, it's good actually. It's good to be 30% or less overall, but it's optimal. It's optimal if you're 30% on each and every card. So if you got 5 cards and you got $10,000 limits on all of them, if you owe less than $3,000 on all 5 cards, then you're at that 30% threshold on each and every card. That's more optimal for your credit score. Now, if you're at 30% or lower overall, maybe you got one card that has an $8,000 balance, but you got another card that has 0 balance on it. And at the end of the day, when you finish your calculation, then you're under 30% when it comes to your debt utilization, then that's good. But it's optimal if you are under 30% for each and every card. It'll raise your credit score even a little bit more. So if you already have a good credit score, basically a good credit score, you're in between the 700, 750 range, and you're in there, and then you're able to manipulate your balances by paying them down or however you're going to do it to get to under 30% for each and every card, then your score is going to bump up even more. Everybody's always looking for a few extra points, and that's one way where you can get a few extra points when it comes to your credit cards and your credit report. All right, so let's do this. Let me do a couple more shout outs right quick. I'm going to do this question of the day, and then I'll come back on the other side and I'll finish about balance transfers and tell you what you ought to do and give you a cautionary tale too when you're dealing with some of those things. So let's jump into a couple more shout outs. So I already shouted out Latrice and Shakina and John and Toya. So let me give a shout out to Mervyn Spencer Moss. Yes, Merv Moss celebrated a birthday last Monday, I believe it was his birthday. So happy birthday to you, Merv Moss. That's my sayings, you guys. An entrepreneur, man. The guy runs Indianapolis, I swear. You don't know how much stuff that he owns down there. So happy birthday to you, Merv Moss. I got to give a shout out to Quincy Roberts as well. He celebrated a birthday. Kim Werner, a songbird at Living Purpose Church in Aurora, Illinois. She celebrated her birthday, so happy birthday to you, Kim. Rhonda Chisholm, she celebrated her birthday. Extra positive. I follow her on Instagram. She's always got great positive things to tell you about your life to help you improve yourself. So Rhonda Chisholm, happy birthday to you as well. OB. Yes, OB Oscar Banks, he celebrated a birthday, so I got to say happy birthday to Oscar Banks. Chrisana Sampson, it celebrates her birthday today. It's a milestone birthday. I'm not going to tell you how old she is, but she celebrates her birthday today, so happy birthday to you. Katisha Cosley Trigg, she celebrates her birthday today as well, so happy birthday to you, Katisha, as well. All right, so let me go and jump into the question of the day. Question of the day is from Georgia, who is from Georgia. So Georgia from Georgia sent me a message. Actually, I think she sent me 2. So she sent me a message on Instagram. So you can catch me there, 800 Credit Score Man on Instagram and on Facebook. You can catch me there. On Twitter, I'm at Credit Score _Man. Contact me on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter. I will absolutely follow you back on Twitter. But she contacted me on Instagram, and then she even sent me an email as well because I didn't respond to the Instagram. She sent me an email at 800@creditscoreman.com. That's 800@creditscoreman.com. So Georgia from Georgia, she said her question was really about first-time home buyers. What are the pros and cons of that if you're going to be a first-time home buyer? So I want to get on here and give her this right quick. So Georgia, in my opinion, now this is in my opinion, there are way more pros than there are cons if you're going to do the first-time home buyer program. So let's talk about it. So who qualifies? Well, duh. If you're a first time home buyer, obviously you are a person that can qualify for it. Now, there are other factors like qualifying for any type of mortgage or any type of loan at all, the other qualifiers. Just because you haven't had a home before doesn't automatically mean that you get to get a home. You've got to have an income and the savings and all of those things that come along with applying for a mortgage. But first time home buyers, you haven't had a home before. However, and this is something that a lot of people don't know. I was having a conversation with an older man one day, and he was, we were talking about he wanted to buy a home, and I told him, why don't you look into the first time home buyers program? He said, well, I owned a home. I owned a home before, and I was like, oh, when was that? And he said 40 years ago. So let me tell you this. You can qualify for being a first time home buyer if you haven't owned a home in several years. Now, I'm not going to give you what the years are simply because it's different in Montana versus Wyoming versus, Chicago. It's different everywhere, but it's just a few years. It could be 4 years in some programs. It could be 7 years in other programs, I believe. So you can be considered a first-time home buyer. So let's say you owned your own home. You left your home, whatever, sold it, whatever it is. You wanted to move back in with your parents to help them because they were getting up in age. You wanted to go back to school, so you sold your home. You went to school somewhere and went to school and did your thing there or whatever it is. But you left that home, you sold that home, and you've been renting ever since then or living with relatives or what have you. So if you've been doing that for 4 or 5 years, you could potentially qualify to be a first-time home buyer yet again. You can qualify to do so. So if that's the case, then it's definitely worth looking into. And so here's some of the things. Here's some things that of course, like I said, you got to qualify in all those things. But it must be owner occupied. So this is not for people that are looking to, for an investment. It's not for people looking for an investment. It's got to be owner occupied. And once you're in there, you got to stay in there a few years, or some of the benefits that you get, you might have to pay back. You make some money on your home, you decide to sell it in 3 years. That may be too short for the threshold that they're looking for. So that means if they gave you some down payment assistance, which you will get with first-time home buyers, you can get down payment assistance with them. You can get a reduction in some of the costs when it comes to closing, when it comes to your first-time home buyer. So there's definitely more positives to me than there are negatives there. So again, you got low or no down payment when it comes to your home. You may be able to get even a lower interest rate slightly because you're using the first-time home buyer, the home buyer system, as well as you may get some of that free money I was just talking about. So closing costs or down payment assistance, things of that nature, you may be getting some of those things. Now, here's some of the cons. Like I just mentioned before, if you get in the program and you sell your home in 2 or 3 years, then you might have an issue. You might got to pay some of that money back or what have you. Home amounts. When it comes to home amounts, basically, what the research says, if you listen to anybody, what it says is that that it's restricted on how much home you can buy. So it's kind of more about if you're buying an expensive home, you've got money, you just never bought a home or what have you. If you've got money, you're going to buy $1 million home, you're probably not going to qualify. But because it says expensive homes, it doesn't specify a number, and I think that it doesn't specify a number for this because $1 million home is expensive. I don't care where you are. However, $1 million home in California is totally different than $1 million home in Iowa. I would think that the Iowan would definitely be out of the frame of existence when it comes to this particular program, but that might not be the case for California. I just don't know, because $1 million home was more common there than it is in other places around the country. So you can't buy a super expensive home on this particular program. And then they may restrict the years that you can finance the home for. But typically they'll put you on 30 years. I'm not sure if 30 years is the typical right now or not. I believe that it is. I think most of the time it always has been. A 30-year fixed mortgage was usually typical. But, of course, you can get a 15. I think you can even get a 20 now at this point. So it restricts you to where or how long you can finance your home. It's probably on 30 years. And if you're a first-time home buyer, it's actually not a bad deal Typical person stays in their home before refinancing or selling 7 years. So it's probably not a bad deal to do a 30-year fixed on there. So that's part of it as well. So where do you start? Where do you start if you're a first-time home buyer, you have no idea what you're doing at all? Where do you start? What you should do is you should call your favorite mortgage lender or call your bank. When you go in the bank next time, they don't have to run a credit report on you. You're not asking them that. Ask them questions about first-time home buyers. Pick up the phone and call a mortgage lender and ask them about first-time home buyer programs. They have pamphlets and all kinds of things out there that'll tell you all about these programs. When you find somebody that you're comfortable with, then that's who you talk to. You talk to them then. If you're ready, then you start the process. If you're not, you got the information in your pocket for when you are ready to go ahead and start that process. So that's what you should do. Georgia from Georgia, thank you so very much. I appreciate you contacting me and being diligent about it by sending me that email after the IG message. So thank you so very much. You are officially a part of the 800 Credit Score Man Show family. You too can be part of this family. All you got to do is send me an email, ask a question, and you might end up on the 800 Credit Score Man Show. Email me at 800@creditscoreman.com. All right, let me throw a couple more birthday shout-outs, and then we'll finish the show out for you guys today. So, Terry Hudson. Terry, like my nephew. Hey, Terry, happy birthday to you, my man. Mark Davis. This is my grandfather in my fraternity, Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. Happy birthday to you, Grandpa Mark Davis. And then I got to give a shout-out to the coolest man that I know, one of the coolest men that I know. That's Tony Patton. Tony Patton celebrated their birthday as well, so happy birthday to you, TP. That's Cool Breeze, you guys. So let's go ahead and finish out what we're talking about today when it comes to these balance transfers. So we talked about, what the payments are, what you can do with it, how is it going to impact your credit score. So if you get those utilizations down under 30%, just to recap a little bit, under 30%, like I said, that's going to help you tremendously. If you can get each and every card under 30%, then your score is going to bump up even more. So when you do these balance transfers, look at the pros and cons for you and see if it's definitely worth it. If you got that $5,000 worth of debt like we talked about, and that fee is going to be $250, you'll pay $250 on $5,000 typically in interest in about 3 or 4 months. So you've got 18 months in our example to pay off this $5,000. That's probably a good deal for you to do that 0% interest rate when you do the balance transfer. Like I said, you're not getting rid of the debt. You're just really moving your debt around. So here's something that you can do though. If you get a new card, say you get a new card, you got a new card, they keep sending you stuff in the mail, everybody, Discover and Capital One and Citibank, and everybody's sending you offers. Get a new credit card, 0% interest, 18 months, blah, blah, blah. They're sending you those things. If you get a new card, and you transfer this $5,000 over to the new card, it's helping your debt utilization. Now, before I just told you, if you just transfer from one card that you have to another card that you already have, it's not helping that debt utilization. But if you do this with a brand new card, it is helping your utilization. Why is that? Because the amount of limits that you have is increasing. So you have the current card, with the $5,000 balance on it. Who knows what that limit is? But you've got that card, you've got another card, but then you have this brand new card that's going to have at least a limit of $5,000, right? Because that's what you're transferring. But they probably offered you more than that, $8,000, $10,000, whatever it is. They offered you more than that, but that's what you're transferring. So you take that particular limit that they're giving you, and now you have more buying power, if you will, and more credit. So you have all of those things working for you. That lowers your debt utilization, because when you take your balances and you add up all your balances, and then you take your limits and you add up all your limits, when you do the calculation, that's going to lower your debt utilization. So if you find yourself under 30% after you do this transfer, perfect. That's perfect. So this helps your debt utilization. There's several ways to do your debt utilization. You got to get rid of the debt, some way. You got to pay it off or what have you. If you increase the limits that you have, that'll help lower your debt utilization as well. When I counsel my clients, we look at all of those options. So sometimes we do one or the other.